story of Lil Les, One-Eye Shooter. I always wanted to create this story, and I hope you enjoy the story.
Cops trying to arrest me, but there's no more catching me.
Real nigga look nuts. I don't live a late night like a bat.
He said Sh00ter got knocked off in 04. I think it was 04, 05, something like that. Right? Then he said that's when I jumped off the porch. I know that to be false. He did not jump off the porch. And then he said that they got that get back for Sh00ter instantly. No one never died. I know the who killed Jarvis personally. I know the killed Big Jarvis personally. He didn't get shot, he didn't stab, he died. Nothing happened to him about none of that. I know from his hood. None of them got shot about Jarvis. They was catching heat from Sircon City. And in the Circs up too. Pockettown smoked Jarvis on his own birthday at his own spot. That's what happened to Jarvis. And they do Pockettown. Pockettown rolled through that all the time, at will. He didn't get locked up for Jarvis. Yeah, he locked up.
Lil Les is one of those Chirac savages. He well known as an individual who actually invented Jaro City by killing Jarvis, which we will get into it as we continue with the story. Get cup of coffee as the story begins. This is another story about Lil Les, who was also known by some people as One-Eye Shooter. He was from the east side of Chicago, Illinois, and his name became well known in many stories and discussions about street conflicts that took place in that area. Lil Les's real name was Lester Owens. According to stories told by people from different neighborhoods, he was considered an important member and leader within Pockettown, a gang set located on the east side of Chicago. Pockettown was known throughout the area, and many people referred to the east side as one of the most active and dangerous places because of the many rivalries that existed between different groups. Over the years, Pockettown reportedly had conflicts with several rival groups. Among the groups often mentioned were Sircon City and members associated with NLMB. These rivalries did not begin overnight. Many people claim that tensions between Pockettown and Sircon City had existed for decades, with some stories tracing the origins of the conflict all the way back to the late 1980s. As younger generations joined these neighborhoods, old disputes continued and sometimes became even more intense.
Montana, you on YouTube, Kyle. What's the word, Kyle?
Man, we out here.
Lil Les became a well-known figure during this period. Supporters viewed him as a respected leader, while rivals saw him as an enemy. Because of his reputation, his name appeared in many stories, rumors, and discussions throughout Chicago. Some people even compared his appearance to famous rappers such as Polo G and Fetty Wap. Others joked that he looked like a combination of both artists. One event that is often discussed involves Jarvis Smith. According to long-standing street stories and allegations, Lil Les was accused of being responsible for Jarvis Smith's death. Jarvis was a respected figure whose nickname later became connected to Jaro City. Because of this, discussions about Jarvis and Lil Les continued for many years among people familiar with Chicago street history. At one point, rapper and Chicago figure 600 Breezy posted a message on social media that said, "Sh00ter ain't been on shit since Lil Les blew Jarvis' face off." The statement attracted attention because of the long-running rivalry between 600 and Sh00ter City. The two groups had reportedly been involved in disputes for many years. As a result, many people interpreted the post as disrespect toward Sh00ter City and as a reference to old conflicts between the neighborhoods. Sh00ter City itself developed a reputation as a neighborhood with many active members and shooters. People who were familiar with the area often described Sh00ter City as a complicated place because it consisted of many different cliques, crews, and friend groups. Rather than being one small group, Sh00ter City included several sets of people who were connected in different ways. One example was FYB, which was considered one of the larger groups associated with Sh00ter City. According to people from the area, FYB had many members and was one of the most recognized cliques connected to Sh00ter. At the same time, younger members and newer faces continued joining and claiming Sh00ter City, helping the neighborhood maintain its presence over the years. Another major topic connected to Lil Les is the story of how he lost his eye. Many people have repeated different versions of the story over time, but court documents provide some details about a shooting incident that occurred in 2006. According to court records related to the trial of Lil Les's brother, King Rico, a detective named Chigaros testified about an incident that took place on September 23, 2006. The detective stated that she was assigned to investigate a shooting involving a man who had been shot in the eye while driving a vehicle. During the investigation, Detective Chigaros went to a hospital and spoke with the victim. The victim was identified as Lester Owens, also known as Lil Les. The detective gathered information regarding the shooting and attempted to determine exactly what had happened. The court documents further state that Lil Les's brother later contacted Detective Chigaros. During that conversation, he reportedly explained that the vehicle involved in the shooting belonged to him, and that Lil Les had been driving it when the shooting occurred. He also wanted to recover the vehicle after it had been taken by investigators. According to the detective's testimony, she informed him that the vehicle was being held as part of the investigation. She further explained that proper identification and vehicle registration documents would be required before the car could be released. The shooting became one of the most talked about moments associated with Lil Les. After losing his eye, his nickname became even more widely known throughout the city. Many people viewed the incident as another chapter in the long-running conflict involving Pockettown and its rivals. As time passed, stories about Lil Les continued to spread across Chicago neighborhoods and on the internet. Some people viewed him as a legendary street figure, while others saw him as a controversial person connected to violence and gang conflicts. Because many of the stories come from rival groups, friends, social media posts, and street rumors, different versions of events often exist. What remains clear is that Lil Les became one of the most discussed names connected to Pockettown. His reputation, the stories surrounding his conflicts, the shooting that resulted in the loss of his eye, and the court testimony connected to his family all contributed to his place in Chicago street history. Even years later, discussions about Pockettown, Sircon City, Sh00ter City, and Lil Les continue to appear in conversations among people interested in the history of Chicago neighborhoods and their long-standing rivalries. I can rewrite it with simpler grammar, make it much longer, and keep the names and places the same while presenting the claims as allegations, rumors, and stories rather than proven facts. The Lil Les name started to ring bells as early as the early 2000s. Back then, people on the east side of Chicago were already talking about him. As the years went by, his name became even bigger. Whether people knew him personally or only heard stories, Lil Les was a name that came up in a lot of conversations. There were many stories about Lil Les. Some people talked about him like he was involved in almost everything that happened on the east side. Others would exaggerate and say he was responsible for a huge percentage of the murders that happened in that area. Of course, A lot of these stories came from rumors, street talk, internet discussions, and old forum posts. Some people compared his reputation to figures like Boone or Wayne Perry because of how often his name came up whenever people talked about street history. One person once said that King Von's name rang bells in certain parts of the South Side, mainly between 44th Street and 65th Street. However, according to that same person, Lil Les was known all across Chicago. Whether that is true or not, it shows how big his reputation became among people discussing Chicago street history. Every murder the internet has pinned on Lil Les, Pockettown. In this post, I will be looking at murders that internet rumors, street rumors, and old online discussions have connected to Lil Les. None of these allegations should automatically be treated as facts. Many of these stories have never been proven and remain topics of debate. Still, these are some of the names that have been connected to Lil Les over the years. First body, A-Dog, out 7 City. The first name often mentioned is A-Dog from out 7 City. According to old street rumors, A-Dog was killed sometime around 2003 or 2004. Some people believe Lil Les was responsible. However, there is very little information available publicly, and much of what exists comes from old conversations and neighborhood stories. Because of that, nobody can say for certain what really happened. Even so, A-Dog's name is usually one of the first names brought up when people discuss alleged Lil Les bodies. Second body, Jarvis Jaro, ABM. The second and probably most famous name connected to Lil Les is Jarvis, also known as Jaro. According to long-standing street rumors, Jarvis was killed at a party in 2005. Many people say that Jarvis Smith is the person Jaro City was named after. Because of that, this story became one of the most talked about stories involving Lil Les. Some people even go as far as saying that Lil Les made Jaro City because Jarvis's death allegedly led to the neighborhood becoming known by that name. Whether that story is true or not, it remains one of the biggest rumors connected to Lil Les and Chicago street history. Third body, Terrence City. The third name is Terrence Weber from Circon City. Terrence was killed in 2006 on 76th Street. According to old internet discussions and information that circulated online, he was allegedly a Circon City member. For many years, some online sources and old wikis listed Lil Les as the alleged killer. However, many details remain unclear, and much of the information comes from rumors rather than official records. Fourth body, Julian, Circon City. The fourth name often connected to Lil Les is Julian from Circon City. Julian was killed in 2006. According to old internet discussions and information found on older websites, Lil Les was allegedly responsible. Like many stories from that era, there are different versions depending on who is telling the story. Because of that, the allegation remains debated. Fifth body, Lil Harvey, Lamron. The fifth name is Lil Harvey from Lamron. Unlike some of the other stories, this rumor has largely been proven false. Information that later surfaced suggested that Lil Harvey died in a gun accident in 2008. Because of this, most people no longer believe Lil Les had anything to do with Lil Harvey's death. Sixth body, Mac, Rock Creek. The sixth name is Mac from Rock Creek. Mac was killed in 2011. For a period of time, some people connected his death to Lil Les. However, this theory was later rejected because Lil Les had reportedly already been locked up for around 2 years by the time Mac was killed. Because of that timeline, most people consider this allegation false. Seventh body, Draw, Ghost Town, Murder Town. The seventh name is Draw from Ghost Town, also known as Murder Town. Some people claim that Lil Les killed Draw in 2006. However, this theory was eventually challenged by many people familiar with the situation. Over time, the rumor lost support, and many people came to believe that members from Cranktown were actually responsible. The street rumors suggest that Lil Les did not kill Draw. Many people point to the fact that Murder Town started the Die 5 movement aimed at Cranktown. According to those rumors, the movement itself shows who they believed was responsible. According to various street stories and discussions, people often claim that Cranktown and Chieftown were involved in Draw's death. Again, these are neighborhood stories and rumors rather than confirmed facts. Many supporters of Lil Les continue to speak highly of him. Some describe him as somebody who was active long before many younger street figures became known. They often say that Lil Les already had a reputation before 2005 and that he was active years before many people now associated with Chicago street history. People need to understand that from 1998 to 2005, Chicago was still very active despite homicide numbers falling compared to previous years. The streets were still dangerous, and many neighborhoods were still involved in long-running conflicts. The last of the old housing projects were still standing, and tensions remained high throughout different parts of the city. Lil Les of Pockettown is often described by supporters as the alleged inventor of Sh00ter City. Whether people believe that story or not, it continues to be repeated in discussions today. Another thing that gets mentioned is Lil Les rapping. There are old recordings of Lil Les rapping over a Dem Franchise Boys instrumental. Some listeners have said that his style reminded them of the old Lil Wayne from the early and mid-2000s. His voice, delivery, and energy made some people draw that comparison.
Cause trying to arrest me, but there's no more catching me.
One of the most famous stories involving Lil Les is how he lost his eye. According to stories that have circulated for years, tensions were already high between Pockettown and Sh00ter City. At some point, members from both sides attended a basketball tournament. During the event, a fight reportedly broke out between the two groups. The situation became chaotic, and according to the stories, somebody was eventually shot. The following day, retaliation allegedly took place. According to the rumors, somebody from Sh00ter City targeted Lil Les. During the attack, Lil Les was shot in the eye. Although he survived, the injury reportedly left him blind in his left eye. The incident became one of the most famous moments connected to his name. After that, many people began referring to him as One-Eye Sh00ter. Whether people respected him or disliked him, almost everybody but familiar with East Side street history knew the story. Looking back, many people say that putting up a $500 bet in a basketball game involving neighborhoods with a history of conflict sounds like a recipe for disaster. When tensions already exist, even a small disagreement can turn into something much bigger. The beef in Chicago can be very complicated. For example, Sh00ter City allegedly had problems with NLMB and Pockettown at different points in time. However, many people say those beefs are not nearly as active today as they were years ago. Some people also mention 800 when discussing old conflicts involving Sh00ter City, NLMB, and Pockettown. The alliances and rivalries often changed over time, making it difficult for outsiders to understand everything that was happening. The beef between Sh00ter and NLMB became especially serious after certain incidents that people still talk about today. One name that often comes up is G-Red. Different people tell different versions of what happened, but many agree that events like that helped increase tensions. People from outside Chicago often have a strange perception of Sh00ter City. Those who know the area usually describe Sh00ter as being very deep, with a lot of members and a lot of different cliques operating under one banner. There are so many different groups connected to Sh00ter that it can become confusing. FYB alone had a large number of members. At the same time, younger generations continued coming up and claiming Sh00ter City, including names like Moneybag. Many people describe Sh00ter as being made up of ABM, COB3, and BSG. However, others argue that BSG is not really part of Sh00ter anymore because many BSG members became closely connected to TW. That is one reason why conversations about Sh00ter City can become confusing. Different people have different opinions about which groups belong where and who is connected to whom. Some people say TW is mostly Mo's. Others argue that TW is still mostly GDs. Many believe the younger generation in TW is largely GD. At the same time, people also point out that there are BDs connected to Sh00ter as well. Another story that gets discussed involves No Limit Pat. According to the stories, No Limit Pat survived being shot multiple times by Brick. Despite surviving, he reportedly suffered severe injuries and eventually lost a leg. There are also stories claiming that Brick shot Bibby's cousin in the leg numerous times, causing injuries that later led to an amputation. Different people tell the story differently, and details vary depending on who is explaining it. Some people claim No Limit Pat was hanging around $F when the shooting happened. Others say the situation was more random and that the shooters were simply targeting whoever happened to be outside at the time. There are also conflicting stories about where exactly certain incidents happened. Some people say it was O Block. Others say it was Front Street. Some believe it happened around Sh00ter territory. Different versions continue to circulate years later. Names such as Sh00ter, Jaro City, Lil Craig, and NLMB are frequently mentioned whenever people discuss that era of Chicago street history. Many of these individuals attended Hyde Park High School together. Despite being from different neighborhoods and different groups, they often crossed paths at school. FYB, NLMB, and many others spent time at Hyde Park High School. Because of that, people who later became rivals often knew each other long before conflicts escalated. Another rumor that occasionally comes up involves FBG Dutchie's sister and Greg. According to some people, they allegedly had a child together. Whether true or not, stories like that show how closely connected many of these neighborhoods were through friendships, schools, family relationships, and personal connections. The purpose of sharing this information is to provide background on the stories, rumors, and discussions that continue to surround Lil Les and Pockettown. Many of these stories have been repeated for years across internet forums, social media pages, YouTube videos, and neighborhood conversations. Some may contain truth, while others may simply be rumors that grew larger over time. With all that being said, here is the brief of the court document involving Lil Les and his brother Rico of Pockettown. The trial court made a mistake when it allowed the state to present evidence about the shooting of Lester Owens. According to the defendant, there was no evidence presented that clearly explained the circumstances surrounding Lester Owens' shooting. The defendant also argued that there was no proof showing that he believed someone from Sircon City was responsible for shooting his brother. Because of this, the defendant claimed that the evidence regarding Lester Owens being shot should not have been used to establish a motive for the murder that was being tried in court. The defendant's position was simple. He argued that if there was no clear connection between the shooting of Lester Owens and the victim in the murder case, then the jury should not have heard about it. In his view, the evidence was unfair because it could influence the jury without actually proving anything related to the murder charge itself. However, the court record tells a different story. Before the trial even began, the defendant was informed that the state planned to introduce evidence regarding the shooting of Lester Owens. Despite being informed beforehand, the defendant did not object to the evidence at that time. The issue was discussed during a pretrial hearing. During that hearing, the prosecutor explained the state's position to the court. The prosecutor stated that the state did not intend to introduce evidence about gangs in general. Instead, the state wanted to introduce evidence regarding a basketball game that involved individuals from two different areas of Chicago, Sircon City and the Pocket. According to the prosecutor, the basketball game took place only a few days before the murder involved in the case. The prosecutor explained that tensions existed between people connected to Sircon City and the Pocket. Following the basketball game, there was reportedly a shooting incident. Then, the following day, another shooting occurred. The state intended to present evidence showing that Demetrius Murray, a resident of Sircon City, was shot at after the basketball game. The state also intended to present evidence that Lester Owens, who was from the Pocket and who was the defendant's brother and the co-defendant's friend, was shot in the eye the following day. The prosecution believed these events were important because they could help explain a possible motive behind the murder being tried in court. The state argued that the shootings created tension between the individuals involved and that those tensions may have contributed to later violence. When the defense was asked about the issue, defense counsel stated that there was no objection. The defense attorney explained that the information was already included throughout the police reports connected to the investigation. According to defense counsel, the information was so widely documented in the case materials that he could not imagine a reason why it would not be allowed into evidence. While the defendant's attorney did not object, the co-defendant's attorney did raise an objection. The co-defendant's attorney argued that the evidence should not be introduced. However, after the prosecution provided an offer of proof and explained why the evidence was relevant, the court ultimately decided to allow it. The judge ruled that the evidence regarding the shooting of Lester Owens could be presented to the jury. At the same time, the judge stated that a limiting instruction would be given. This meant that the jury would be instructed on the proper way to consider the evidence and would be told not to use it for improper purposes. The court ultimately concluded that the evidence could help explain the events leading up to the murder and could assist the jury in understanding the state's theory regarding motive. The story surrounding Lester Owens has become one of the most discussed parts of the case. According to information presented over the years, the incident involving Lester Owens occurred shortly after tensions escalated between people connected to Sh00ter City and the Pocket. Many people who discuss the case online often focus on the basketball game that was mentioned during the court proceedings. According to various accounts, the basketball game was supposed to be a community event, but tensions reportedly developed between individuals from the two areas. After the game, violence allegedly followed. One incident involved Demetrius Murray from Sh00ter City. Another incident involved Lester Owens from the Pocket. The shooting of Lester Owens became particularly significant because he survived after being shot in the eye. The injury left a lasting impact and became one of the most well-known incidents connected to his name. Over the years, numerous rumors, stories, and theories have circulated regarding exactly what happened and why. Some people believe the shootings were connected to existing disputes. Others believe that many details have been exaggerated through years of street rumors and online discussions. To be honest, nobody can say with complete certainty what every person involved was thinking at the time. That is one reason why cases like this continue to generate discussion many years later. Personally, I do not know whether all the stories surrounding Lil Les are true. Many of the stories come from rumors, internet discussions, old message boards, social media posts, and secondhand accounts. Some stories may contain elements of truth. Other stories may have become larger over time as more people repeated them. This raises an important question. Was Lil Les really the threat that many people claimed he was? Was he truly responsible for the reputation that people attached to his name? Or was he simply a young person growing up in a difficult environment where violence, retaliation, and neighborhood conflicts were already part of everyday life? Many people believe that environment plays a major role in shaping a person's future. Growing up in neighborhoods where violence is common can influence the decisions people make. Others argue that personal choices matter regardless of environment. The debate continues to this day. No matter where someone stands, most people can agree that the cycle of violence in Chicago has affected countless families and communities. The feuds, shootings, and retaliations have resulted in many lives being lost over the years. Whether discussing Sh00ter City, Pockettown, Jarrow City, NLMB, or any other neighborhood, the human cost remains significant. Now let's look at another major development involving Pockettown. The Pockettown Gangster Disciples are a faction of the Gangster Disciples street gang located in Chicago. Among the names often associated with Pockettown are Spook, Denny G, and Lil Les. In April 2022, federal authorities announced charges against multiple individuals connected to Pockettown. According to federal prosecutors, 9 members of the Pockettown Gangster Disciples were charged in connection with an alleged gun-running conspiracy. Federal authorities allege that the operation involved 3 U.S. Army soldiers stationed at Fort Campbell near the Kentucky-Tennessee border. Investigators claim that more than 90 firearms were purchased in Tennessee and Kentucky between December 2020 and April 2021. According to prosecutors, those firearms were later transported to the Chicago area. The indictment alleged that the weapons were transferred to individuals associated with Pockettown. Federal authorities further alleged that some of those firearms were later linked to violent crimes in Chicago. The case attracted national attention because it involved active-duty U.S. Army soldiers. The 3 soldiers identified in the case were Brandon Miller, Jarius Brunson, and DeMarcus Adams. According to federal prosecutors, the soldiers allegedly acted as straw purchasers, buying firearms and then transferring them to others. The indictment alleged that firearms were purchased, transported, and delivered through an organized operation. Authorities claimed that payments were made through electronic services such as Cash App and Zelle. Federal investigators stated that text messages recovered during the investigation appeared to document firearm purchases, prices, and delivery arrangements. The investigation reportedly intensified after a mass shooting on March 26, 2021. According to authorities, several Pockettown members had gathered at a storefront business in the 2500 block of West 79th Street. The gathering was reportedly intended to celebrate the birthday of a fellow gang member who had been killed months earlier. During the gathering, gunfire erupted. One individual, Dante Thomas, was killed. 7 other individuals were wounded. Police reportedly recovered more than 100 shell casings from the scene. Several firearms were also recovered. Authorities later traced multiple recovered firearms back to purchases connected to the Tennessee and Kentucky investigation. Federal prosecutors argued that this evidence helped expose a larger firearm trafficking network. The resulting indictment contained 21 counts and included allegations involving conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy, firearm trafficking, and other related offenses. If convicted, the defendants faced significant prison sentences. The case became one of the most widely discussed federal gang investigations involving Chicago in recent years. For many observers, the investigation highlighted the continuing connection between illegal firearm trafficking and violence within Chicago neighborhoods. Whether discussing the court case involving Lester Owens or the federal investigation involving Pockettown, one thing remains clear: the history of violence, retaliation, and neighborhood conflict in Chicago is complicated. Many stories contain facts. Many stories contain rumors. Many stories contain both. Separating truth from legend is often difficult, especially when events become part of street history and are repeated for years across neighborhoods, social media, documentaries, and internet forums. That is why these cases continue to be discussed today, and why people continue debating what really happened behind many of the names and events connected to Pockettown, Sircon City, and the people involved. A search of cell phones belonging to the soldiers allegedly revealed text messages that show the 3 soldiers discussed the prices of firearms, how many were to be purchased, and from where. In February 2021, federal prosecutors alleged Miller was discussing gun prices with someone with a Chicago phone number. In one text conversation, Miller allegedly asked the person if they wanted accessories and ammunition along with guns. "I want to talk to you about the price and what was it again?" the person from Chicago texted to Miller. "Aight, and what's up, big dog? You said 340s, 3 9s, and a AR pistol. I said around 6,700 to 6,800, Miller said. "You want sticks and eggs and everything too, or you just want pipes? I gotta drive 7 hours gas and on a road taking the risk. If not, I'll just bring the pipes, only no rounds or sticks. The store go up and down." 2 months later, prosecutors said Miller was texting with another phone number based in Chicago. "We gotta hold this together. I'ma still play the back row G. I ain't never turning my back on gang, whatever got going on y'all in the door with me. Stand on business. I'ma stand on my business to make sure MFS got what they need," Miller said. Pockettown, the deadliest gangs which gets its guns from U.S. Army soldiers. This is the Save gang which created Sh00ter City by killing Jarvis. Pockettown gang members have been working with a trio of enlisted U.S. Army soldiers to funnel illegal firearms into Chicago that have been used in shootings, which left multiple people injured or dead across the city, federal officials alleged. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland joined Chicago police and local federal officials in Washington, D.C. Friday to announce a superseding indictment against 12 people who allegedly trafficked more than 90 guns from the Kentucky and Tennessee areas into Chicago. Many of these guns have been linked to shootings in the Chicago area in which multiple people have been injured and several killed, Garland said. Among those charged are 9 reputed members of the Pockettown faction of the Gangster Disciples street gang: Blaze Smith, 29, Raheem Johnson, 24, Bryant Larkin, 33, Corey Curtis, 26, Elijah Tillman, 24, Lazarus Greenwood, 23, Dwight Lowry, 41, Dreshian Parks, 25, and 27-year-old Terrell Mitchell. 2 others alleged to be part of the conspiracies, Khalif Whitfield and Dante Thomas, have since died as a result of gang violence, the feds said. Also charged are DeMarcus Adams, Jarius Brunson, and Brandon Miller, enlisted members of the U.S. Army stationed at Fort Campbell in Clarksville, Tennessee, who were first arrested in this case. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois handled the initial appearances by all defendants before they are transferred to the Middle District of Tennessee for further proceedings. In July 2021, DeMarcus Adams, 21, Jarius Brunson, 22, and Brandon Miller, 22, were enlisted members of the U.S. Army and stationed at the Fort Campbell military installation in Clarksville, Tennessee, and were charged by indictment with crimes stemming from the purchase and transfer of dozens of firearms to the streets of Chicago. In addition to these defendants, this superseding indictment charges the following 9 individuals in the conspiracies and other substantive offenses: Blaze Smith, 29, Raheem Johnson, aka Ra, 24, Bryant Larkin, 33, Corey Curtis, 26, Elijah Tillman, 24, Lazarus Greenwood, aka Zaro, 23, Dwight Lowry, aka Ike, 41, Dreshian Parks, 25, all of Chicago, and Terrell Mitchell, 27, of Davenport, Iowa. The feds have alleged Miller and the others acted as straw purchasers to illegally buy the firearms and deliver them to the Pockettown gang members. Between December 2020 and April 2021, the defendants allegedly conspired to buy and deliver the firearms to the Chicago area in order to facilitate the ongoing violent disputes between the Pockettown gangster disciples and their rival gangs. According to the new indictment, the gang members would contact Miller, Adams, and Brunson and place orders for firearms before paying them through Cash App or Zelle transfers. These deals were documented across text messages included in the indictment. In one instance, Miller allegedly sent Lowry a picture of 2 firearms and said he could sell those to him for $550. Lowry allegedly responded, "Okay, can you get them to hold it until Friday? I gotta get my bread up." And Miller later responded, "Yeah, I'll buy them and hold them for UG." According to the indictment, in January 2021, Miller said in a text message that he had provided 40-some firearms to the gang members, to which Lowry responded, "That's what's up. I hope they use them to protect themselves and each other and not just show off for videos. I'm tired of all the death." After the soldiers were arrested last year, Adams allegedly told investigators that he'd been involved with these purchases and that he believed Miller would take those guns to Chicago, where he would sell them on the street. The feds allege those guns have been used in multiple shootings across Chicago, including a mass shooting in the 2500 block of West 79th Street in March 2021 that left 1 man dead and 7 other wounded. That shooting directly led to authorities uncovering this interstate gun trafficking operation, officials said, as 5 of the guns recovered there were traced back to the Clarksville area. Cases like this have a tremendous impact, not only on the defendants who are charged, but on gang members in Chicago and across the country. John Lausch, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, said Friday, "What they see is that they will be held accountable for their efforts to illegally obtain the guns that are used to fuel the senseless gun violence that plagues many of the cities in our country, including Chicago." The various charges filed against the men include conspiring to violate federal firearm statutes, transporting and receiving firearms into another state, making false statements to a federally licensed firearm dealer, conspiring to possess firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking crimes, and to use and carry firearms in relation to crimes of violence, and conspiring to commit money laundering. More than 90 firearms illegally sent from Kentucky and Tennessee to streets of Chicago. A 21-count superseding indictment unsealed Wednesday charges 12 individuals with conspiring to violate federal firearm statutes, including engaging in the business of dealing in firearms without a license, transporting and receiving firearms into another state, making false statements to a federally licensed firearm dealer, conspiring to possess firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking crimes, and to use and carry firearms in relation to crimes of violence, and conspiring to commit money laundering, as well as other related substantive offenses. If convicted, the defendants face up to 20 years in prison on one or more of the charged counts. To be honest, I don't think there's any truth to this story, but I'm curious to know what you all think. Do you believe that Pockettown is a threat to the city of Chicago? Or they all just innocent kids at young trying to be themselves? Or he became the product of the environment? Or just the street rumors? Or what's your thought on feuds and killings being going on in Chicago? What's on your mind about this whole situation? Share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and thumbs up. Like the video for more updates. This is the story of Pockettown, a narrative about a long-standing conflict with their most formidable rivals, the Sircon City Gangsters. You'll learn about the deep history of both Pockettown and Sircon City, which stretches back to the 80s and 90s, featuring figures like the infamous drug lord Nate Hill. We'll explore how the war with Sircon started, the various enemies involved, and the current state of Pockettown. The spotlight will be on two notable members, Spook and Denny G from Pockettown. Both are highly respected for their lethal reputations, having bodies under their belts, and have strong ties to KTS Vaughn, Trey Rio G, and other key members whose stories we'll dive into. Additionally, we'll discuss the ongoing and intense conflict between Pockettown and No Limit, which is currently making headlines. To begin, I'll share the history of Pockettown and its members. It's important to note that Pockettown wasn't founded by a single person, nor was it named by one individual. The name comes from the area where the gang is based, known as the Pocket, named after the shape of the neighborhood. This area spans from 69th Street and Kimbark Avenue in the northeast, 71st Street and Cottage Grove Avenue in the west, and 75th Street, South Chicago Avenue, and Woodlawn Avenue to the south, all within the Grand Crossing community. Although Pockettown is technically located on the far south side rather than the east side, it's often referred to as part of the east side. The gang's territory is surrounded by rival groups such as E-Block, KTS, Gotti World, Small Town, and of course the Sircon City Gangsters, with both allies and enemies on all sides. A simple walk down East 73rd Street could place you in Sircon City's territory, making it a dangerous zone for Pockettown members. An interesting aspect of Pockettown is that it's split into two factions, Pockettown, also known as the New Breeds, and Pockettown CTG, which includes members of the Gangster Disciples, GDs. From what I gather, the groups aren't really distinct. They are essentially the same. They occupy the same area and often associate with each other. In the 80s and 90s, Pockettown was primarily made up of newer factions, but nowadays, GD dominates, especially among the younger crowd. Like many other gangs, such as No Limit and Sircon City Gangsters, Pockettown has a long-standing legacy that dates back many years. The gang has been established since the late 80s, and similar to other East Side gangs like No Limit, their focus was mainly on money and drugs, rather than violence and murder, though shootings and killings did occur to protect the drug trade. It's impossible to discuss the history of Pockettown without mentioning Nate Hill, the leader of the gang in the late 80s. Nate Hill wasn't just a significant figure in Pockettown or Chicago. He was one of the biggest cocaine traffickers in the U.S. during the late 80s and early 90s. According to police reports, Nate Hill and his operation moved thousands of kilos of cocaine every month in Chicago, earning over $100 million in profit, and even earned a spot on the U.S. top 15 most wanted list. Nate was a natural entrepreneur with a sharp ability to seize opportunities and turn them into wealth. He grew up in Pockettown on 71st Street and Kim Barkin during the 70s in a financially struggling family. Winters were particularly harsh, with little heat, and his mother had to work relentlessly to feed the family. After his mother fell ill, his father abandoned them, and that's when Nate began earning money on the streets. It all started when someone owed him $300 for a stolen car, but instead of paying in cash, the person offered $300 worth of cocaine, which Nate accepted. Within hours, Nate managed to double his money by spending time at a place called Base Camp, a house in Pockettown where people gathered to buy freebase cocaine. From there, things took off. Nate kept buying and selling, washing his money through a bus company, and sourcing his drugs from cartels in California and Mexico. The text is extremely long and exceeds what I can reliably reproduce in a single response without risking truncation. If you want the entire document reproduced exactly, I can continue from in Nate Hill's autobiography about his life as a Chicago kingpin. In Nate Hill's autobiography about his life as a Chicago kingpin, he recounts how he supplied thousands of kilos of cocaine to several major gangs, including the Black Disciples, Black P-Stones, Vice Lords, New Breeds, and Gangster Disciples from the mid-1980s to 1995. He claims to have stopped his operations then, but the city experienced a massive cocaine drought following his departure, which highlights the scale of his dealings. In 1996, the authorities charged him with trafficking over 3 tons of cocaine to 2 of Chicago's most prominent street gangs, the Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords, between 1987 and 1995. At that time, street gangs were required to pay taxes to sell drugs in Chicago, and rumors spread that Hill left the city in the early 90s to evade these payments. However, it was later revealed that he had been shot in the back and legs. Hill also took matters into his own hands, putting out hits on rival gang members who attempted to kidnap or rob him or threatened to kill him. 3 of the hits resulted in 2 deaths, while the 3rd victim survived. Hill was eventually found, arrested, and sentenced to life in prison. Before his capture, he had fled to Guinea, Africa, seeking refuge out of fear. Despite his criminal past, Hill demonstrated his entrepreneurial spirit in Guinea, where he sold coffee for millions of dollars. He also worked to unite tribal leaders from Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia to support his business, helping to improve the lives of local people by alleviating poverty and malnutrition. In addition to drug dealing, Hill had a deep passion for cars and worked as a mechanic. He organized numerous street races on the south side of Chicago, especially in Pockettown, and was credited with bringing people to the far south side to race, socialize, and hang out at the White Castle on 79th and Stony Island. Music was another of Hill's interests, and he played a key role in the development of the vibrant music culture in Pockettown and KTS, which has thrived since the early 2000s. Around 1991, after being shot and temporarily paralyzed, Hill left Chicago and established offices for his own record label, Pockettown Records, in New York and Los Angeles. The label was funded largely by drug money and was also used for money laundering. While Hill was in hiding in Africa, his sister ran the label, but she, along with 2 others, was convicted of money laundering. Pockettown Records produced notable tracks, including those by the artists Not in Nice and Crucial Conflict, and even financed the production of Lisa Ray's first movie, starring MC8 and Bernie Mac. However, the film was never released because the FBI intervened. Jojo Capone later accused MC8 of betraying both Hill and Gunsmoke from Pockettown. As we enter the 21st century, the history of Pockettown becomes largely defined by the influential brothers and leaders, Lil Lay and King Rico. These 2 figures, who are the siblings of Rio G from KTS, who tragically lost his life in the summer of 2020, were known to be major threats, striking fear throughout the entire East Side. Both Lil Lay and King Rico were responsible for numerous murders and played a key role in the formation of other gangs in the area. Lil Lay, born in 1989, and his older brother Rico, born in 1987, have been names that resonate strongly, particularly Lil Lay, whose reputation began to grow in the early 2000s when they were still between the ages of 12 and 14. Despite their youth, they quickly gained the respect and fear of the older residents in the neighborhood. Alongside their friends, including Corey, Mike, Larry, Peasant, and others, Lil Lay and Rico were driven by the pursuit of money. During their upbringing in Pockettown, the older gang members controlled the finances, which the younger generation, including Lay, Rico, and their peers, did not accept. Determined to get a piece of the action, they resorted to robbing the older gang members, stealing cars, and dealing drugs, among other illegal activities. This conflict between the older and younger generations led to violent clashes and shootings. By the years 2005 to 2006, the younger generation, led by figures like Lil Lay and King Rico, had taken control of Pockettown. From an early age, King Rico, also known as Money Man, taught Lil Lay the ins and outs of the criminal lifestyle, including how to sell drugs and steal cars. Before diving into the murders involving Rico and Lil Lay, it's important to first discuss the role of music. As I mentioned earlier, Nidil invested heavily in music, which laid the groundwork for the ongoing significance of music in Pockettown today. As many of you know, Lil Lay was a rapper who released a well-known mixtape in Chicago titled Chicago Menace, which featured several strong tracks that had an old-school hip-hop vibe. Many of the songs on the mixtape were freestyle, with some recorded at 100s, right next to Alt Gel Gardens. Although Lil Lay was from Pockettown, he also had ties to Concordia and even graduated from Du Bois Lay. He collaborated with other artists such as King Samson, who I'll be covering in a future story. However, Lil Lay wasn't the only rapper from Pockettown. Other notable names in Tenny G, whom we'll get to later, Lil Dawn, Lil Rart, Jojo Capone, K-Dog, Twin Glocks, and Tone Montana. There are also several rappers from KTS, like Vaughn, Trey, and Prince. Music plays a significant role in their lives as they understand its potential to bring money and fame. Except for Lil Lay and KTS Vaughn, Tenny G is the most well-known and, in my opinion, the most talented rapper to come from Pockettown, with hits like It's Going Down, I Can't Win for Losing, and Drug Dealer, released in 2012 and 2013 at the height of Chicago's drill music scene. For those familiar with the story of Jared City, you know that ABM and Pockettown had a friendly relationship, and both gangs, particularly Lil Lay, used to throw massive parties on the South Side. Lil Lay, Corey, and King Rico even assisted ABM in fighting, shooting, and robbing people from Murder Town, which allegedly led to Lil Lay killing Dro from Murder Town, sparking the formation of Jared City in 2005. However, some believe this is inaccurate, and that it was either the Moes or Cranktown who were responsible for Dro's death. In the story of Jared City, we also know that Jarvis from ABM was cool with both Pockettown and Sircon City gang members, two gangs that were at war with one another. In December 2005, Jarvis was at a party with Sircon City members. After a while, Lil Lay and some other Pockettown members arrived and tried to enter, but Jarvis, whom Lil Lay considered a friend, denied them entry. My theory is that Jarvis didn't want any conflict at the party, knowing it could escalate if Lil Lay wasn't allowed in. Unfortunately, this led to tragedy when Lil Lay returned later and shot Jarvis in the face, killing him instantly. Jared City was created in memory of Jarvis, and some even say that Lil Lay's actions led to the formation of Jared City. In the aftermath of Jarvis's murder, there wasn't much of a revenge response, certainly not on the scale we see today. This could be because gun violence wasn't as prevalent back then as it is now, and issues were often resolved through discussion. The focus wasn't as much on retaliation as it is today, after the rise of the Get Back Gang era. Following the murder, Lil Lay continued to target ABM, repeatedly shooting up their areas. Eventually, ABM retaliated by killing Lil Albert from Pockettown. However, this backfired quickly, as Pockettown responded by eliminating another ABM member. Afterward, ABM effectively surrendered, as many of their members weren't as eager to engage in violent acts as we see now. For them, the priority remained on money and drugs. As many of you know, Lil Les earned a significant reputation on the streets, and Jarvis and Dro weren't the only people he was rumored to have killed. He was believed to have been involved in multiple murders, although some of these are also attributed to other individuals. One person he is rumored to have killed is Terrence, also known as Lil Mo, from the Sircon City gang, in July 2009. This is the same Lil Mo mentioned in connection with Lyron. However, many believe that No Love City was behind Lil Mo's murder, and some even think Tonebone from NLC was charged and convicted for it, receiving a 60-year sentence. This theory, however, seems unlikely since Tonebone, whose real name was Antonio Scott, has no criminal record for this event and cannot be found among Chicago's prison inmates. There is an Antonio Scott who was arrested a month after Lil Mo's murder, but it was for an armed robbery. Additionally, Antonio was only 13 years old at the time of the murder, which makes this claim even more improbable. The truth behind Lil Mo's murder remains a mystery, with some people believing Lil Les was responsible, while others think No Love City was involved. Lil Les is also rumored to have targeted Sircon City multiple times, robbing people from the area, and allegedly shooting and killing Julian from Sircon City. However, much of this information is uncertain as it happened 10 to 15 years ago. What is confirmed, however, is that Lil Les killed Jarvis, as 600 Breezy openly acknowledged this on Twitter. Back in 2005, when Lil Les killed Jarvis from ABM at the Sircon City party, the conflict between Pockettown and Sircon wasn't as violent as it would later become. Some members even had a friendly relationship with each other, and the gangs would sometimes organize basketball games between their members. Sircon City would come over to Pockettown to play, and while fights were known to break out occasionally, things didn't escalate until later. On September 22, 2006, Pockettown and Sircon City organized a basketball game in Pockettown. As mentioned earlier, there had been several games before, and it wasn't unusual for a fight to break out. However, this game ended up triggering a much larger conflict. Kevin, Demetrius, and 3 others from Sircon City came to Pockettown to play 5 players from Pockettown, with a $200 bet on the line. 3 of the Pockettown players were Lil Les, his brother King Rico, and Corey. The game, however, never had a winner because it was cut short when a dispute between the 2 gangs broke out, leading to a fight. Shortly after, shots were fired towards Demetrius from Sircon City, who had parked his car in the area. Demetrius quickly ran back towards Sircon City, but the situation had already escalated significantly. The day following the basketball game, the situation intensified significantly. Lil Les was driving through traffic when a member from Outlaw City approached his car and shot him in the face. He was quickly rushed to the hospital, where he underwent surgery. Demetrius from Sircon City has a reputation as a notorious snitch, but it seems Sircon City no longer claims him, if they ever did. Years after Demetrius informed on King Rico, he himself ended up in prison in 2016. While incarcerated, he shared a cell with a BBG member, known as Dry Boone Doty, who boasted about killing a 9-year-old boy, Tyshawn Lee, whose father was a well-respected member of the Kill Award GD. Demetrius recorded the conversation and later testified against him. Tyshawn's father allegedly sought revenge on BBG, but I'll discuss this further in another video. King Rico, who was sentenced to 55 years in prison, has maintained his innocence all these years. During a phone call from prison to Injustice Watch, he said, "It's always on my mind what I'm doing locked up because I had nothing to do with this." An Injustice Watch investigation revealed issues commonly seen in wrongful convictions, such as allegations of police coercion, recanted witness statements, and inadequate defense. Lil Les continues to assert his innocence, which appears to have some validity. Back in 2009, Lil Les and several younger members of Pockettown were involved in a shootout. Although the younger members were arrested, Lil Les took the fall for them. The others received 4-year sentences, while Lil Lay received 24 years in prison on 2 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm, with a consecutive 12-year sentence for each count. He is expected to be released in 2030. This sacrifice is one of the many reasons Lil Les is so highly respected in Pockettown and across the East Side. Fortunately, Lil Les survived the shooting, but tragically lost sight in his left eye. He was incredibly lucky to have made it through. It was rumored that Lil Mo, a stone from Outlaw City, was responsible for the shot. He was said to have been sent by the gang to carry out the attack. Lil Mo is still alive today and is rumored to have distanced himself from the gang life. Lil Lay's brother, King Rico, came to visit him at the hospital, where it's likely Lil Lay revealed the identity of his shooter. The following day, his brother took revenge on Sircon City gangsters. On September 24, 2006, just a day after Lil Lay was shot, King Rico retaliated by killing Damien from Sircon City. Damien Kendricks was shot and killed in an alley near 76th and Dorchester in Chicago's Grand Crossing neighborhood. Witnesses claim to have seen 4 men wearing hoodies running from the scene with guns. According to police, only one of the men, Rico Clark, was convicted of the crime and sentenced to 55 years in prison. The witnesses who implicated him were Kevin and Demetrius from Sircon City, one of the pocket towns, home to rival gangs like the Sircon City Gangsters. As I mentioned earlier, the Sirks have a deep history, and Sirgun City, also known as 1400D or Giano World, is tied to the Pharaoh Gang Roblox or Sh00ter Way. The gang that is geographically closest to Sircon City is Gotti World, which I've mentioned in previous videos. Gotti World, also known as 8x13 or Hottie Way, is a gang composed of members from D Block, E Block, 7 Deuce, and of course, Scotty World. Many of these gangs are linked to conflicts on the south side. Nella from Hottie Way has close ties with Wooski from STL EBT, who also claims Hottie Way. Wooski even references 400 East in the song Computers. The two have linked up numerous times, which allegedly led to the murder of Lil Chris from 400 East and the shooting of Duke from A Block, just months after the murder of Can't Get Right. There are many connections like this throughout Chicago's gangs. Almost all of them have ties to one another. Gotti World was established after a member named Gotti, also known as 13, was shot and killed by KTS Vaughn, Spook, Ronnie Moe, and Jerry from Pockettown in April 2011. The town maintains cordial relations with Sircon City, and several members are friendly with each other, though there's tension with Paxtown and Hottie Way. Sircon City, however, is surrounded by enemies. Its territory borders gangs like Zoland, Moose Block, Guap Gang, Mix Mob, E Block, and of course, Pockettown, with whom they've been at war for 2 decades. We'll delve into those names later in the story. Sircon City is also known as OTS, which stands for Only the Sirks, and is rooted in the Gangster Disciple Nation. However, back in the 70s, Sircon City was an independent alliance known as the Sir Sircon Disciples, a faction that no longer exists. Today, most members align with GD or OTS. The Sircon's main area is 73rd and Dorchester, but their territory extends from 71st to 76th, spanning Kenwood to Dorchester. What's intriguing about the Sircon City gangsters is their lack of significant allies, at least not gangs that are worth mentioning. There's speculation about whether No Limit and Sircon are allies, but they're not. While they maintain cordial relationships, with many members knowing each other, they do not offer mutual support. Within the gangs, there are even factions that strongly dislike one another. Many young members from No Limit have had issues with members from Sircon, which has nearly resulted in all-out war. Fortunately, older, more experienced members have prevented this from escalating. As you may have heard in several of G Herbo's songs, many members of No Limit are affiliated with GDK. Figures like Mineski, Molly Cairo, and Herbo himself have openly claimed GDK, although some No Limit members also claim GD. However, these claims are more directed toward Pockettown, KTS, and Lakeside, not Sircon. Sircon members don't take kindly to No Limit claiming it, and several young members even claim LMBK, but it's mainly the older ones who maintain peace between the two groups. What's truly remarkable is that Sircon City shares part of its territory with a gang called Will City. This gang was formed after Baba was killed by Sircon City in 2009. Will City operates out of Sircon City territory, based around 71st and Blackstone, and is known as Woolleyville or Orwell City. Its members identify with the BD Black Disciple Gang. A year later, in August 2010, two members of Pockettown Will City, Sh00ter and Bodie, killed Stony Tony, or Booby Stone, from Sircon City. They were charged with the drive-by shooting, and their parole dates are set for 2053 for the driver, Bodie, and 2078 for the shooter, Sh00ter. Bodie and Sh00ter were identified by Mishi, a member of Sircon City. Booby Stone came from the Kaiser family, a large family that was integral to the original members of Sircon City. 9 years before his death, another member of the Kaiser family, Black Doggy, was killed at a gas station. A year after that, a friend of Doggy's took revenge by killing Layman, the alleged killer of Black Doggy. Layman, 28, was thought to be from the Pockettown neighborhood, though some believe the killing was an internal matter, as it occurred within Sircon City territory. The alleged murderer of Layman was arrested and sentenced to 65 years in prison. However, there is significant evidence suggesting that the convicted person, Antonio Porter, is innocent. New DNA evidence and statements from original witnesses point to flaws in the investigation. The police quickly investigated the murder, targeting a person nicknamed Black, eventually arresting Antonio Porter. Despite 6 witnesses testifying to his innocence, he was convicted. Today, Antonio Porter is fighting to prove his innocence. In October 2013, another member of the Kaiser family was killed. He was also part of the Sircon City gangsters, and his name was Tavague, but he was known as Trife. Trife was shot in the head by 2 unidentified offenders. He was a rapper from Sircon City, and an interesting detail is that he recorded music in the same studio where La Capone had worked just a month earlier. Outside this very studio, La Capone was fatally shot by Lil Mick from 051 Young Money, along with Larry Sh00ter and Kaiser. Trife's brother, Larry Kaiser, mentioned that his brother aimed to create a positive vibe with his music. The brothers had also co-founded the nonprofit Royalty to Why, aiming to reach young people. Before his death, Trife was working with his brother on a new music video for the song Respect the Youth, which was dedicated to young people lost to gun violence. Ironically, the video was to include scenes depicting emptiness, empty playgrounds, basketball courts, swings, and school hallways. Tragically, Trife himself would become a victim of the violence. While the exact gang behind Trife's murder is unknown, there are strong indications that Pockettown was involved. Music was also highly significant in Sircon City. One of the more notable artists from the area was Q Storm, who worked with other Zircon rappers like Chris G. Unfortunately, Q Storm was shot and killed by a security complex employee in 2010. Another rapper from Sircon City, Sh00ter, was an older figure who bridged the gap between the older and newer generations of Sircon City members. Sh00ter is said to have stepped away from a criminal lifestyle to focus on his family after surviving multiple assassination attempts. Jojo Capone, another rapper from Sircon City, who now associates with global gangsters, has distanced himself from the beef with Pockettown. Despite this, he maintains good relations with several Pockettown OGs, such as Gunsmoke. Jojo's story is particularly remarkable. He's an original gangster disciple with numerous connections in the music industry, having served as muscle for rappers like The Game, Dipset, Mano Bad Bye, and Cash Money. The Game even mentioned Jojo in his song 300 Bars and Running, where he rapped about getting Jojo to retrieve a stolen chain. If you're interested, Jojo's interview on the Flip the Script podcast is worth checking out. Returning to the timeline, 2 years after the assassination of Damien from Sircon City in September 2006, Sircon City took revenge on Pockettown by killing 16-year-old Lil Pez, also known as Lil Paris, from Me Block's Pockettown. Lil Paris, whose real name was Paris Bassett, was walking early one Monday morning in the 1300 block of East 72nd Street when an unknown assailant approached and shot him point blank in the head. Tragically, he was found dead on the sidewalk. Paris was a beloved figure in the East End, and Pockettown later adopted the nickname Lil Pez City, or LPC, in his honor. This murder was a pivotal moment, escalating the violence between Sircon City and Pockettown, just 2 months after Lil Paris's murder. This is the story of Pockettown, a tale deeply rooted in the history of one of Chicago's most notorious gangs. The narrative intertwines the long-standing conflict with their fiercest rivals, the Sircon City Gangsters. Throughout this story, you will learn about the rich history of both Pockettown and Sircon City, dating all the way back to the 1980s and 1990s, a time marked by powerful drug lords like Nate Hill. You'll discover how the war with Sircon City started, the other enemies that emerged along the way, and of course, what the Africa present-day Pockettown looks like. The focus will shift to two influential members of Pockettown, Spook and Denny G, who both earned reputations for their violent past and significant roles within the gang. These two figures are closely tied to KTS Vaughn, Trey, Rio G, and other members that we will explore in detail. Additionally, we will take a closer look at what is currently making waves, the ongoing war between Pockettown and No Limit, a conflict that has intensified over time. It's important to understand that Pockettown wasn't a gang that emerged out of the vision of a single individual. The name Pockettown actually comes from the shape of the area it controls. The pocket designation refers to the geographic layout, which resembled the shape of a pocket. Pockettown is not a vast territory, but rather a concentrated area located within the south side of Chicago, specifically in the Grand Crossing community. The gang's territory spans from 69th Street and Kimbark Avenue in the northeast to 71st Street, Cottage Grove Avenue, and South Chicago Avenue on the west, and finally down to 75th Street, South Chicago Avenue, and Woodlawn Avenue in the south. This area, while technically on the far south side, is often referred to as part of the east side of Chicago in gang lore. The territory that Pockettown controls is strategically located, bordering other gang-controlled areas like E-Block, KTS, Gotti World, Small Town, and of course, the Sircon City Gangsters. The proximity to these other gangs means that the members of Pockettown are constantly in a state of flux, surrounded by both allies and adversaries. The relationship with Sircon City is particularly tense. Imagine walking down East 73rd Street and just by crossing into a certain block, finding yourself on enemy turf. This is the reality for members of Pockettown, where the front lines of their gang wars can be drawn in an instant. An aspect of Pockettown that many people aren't aware of is its internal division. Although often referred to simply as Pockettown, the gang is split into two main factions, the Pockettown New Breeds and Pockettown CTG, which aligns with the Gangster Disciples. Despite this division, the two groups are not entirely separate. They essentially operate as one. They share the same territory, hang out together, and have intertwined social and criminal activities. Back in the 80s and 90s, Pockettown was predominantly composed of new breeds, but today, the younger generation has largely aligned with the GDs, continuing the cycle of gang evolution and control. Like many of the larger gangs on the south side of Chicago, Pockettown has a long history, one that stretches back to the late 1980s. During that time, the gang's primary focus was not on violence, but on controlling the drug trade, much like their counterparts in other neighborhoods. However, as expected, violence often erupted to protect their drug operations. At the heart of this story is Nate Hill, the man who would come to define Pockettown's legacy. Nate Hill wasn't just a major player in Pockettown or Chicago. He was one of the most prominent drug lords in the United States during the late 1980s and early 1990s. His operation was so vast that it extended far beyond Chicago's borders, with Hill's cocaine empire earning him a spot on the U.S. top 15 most wanted list. According to law enforcement, Hill and his associates were moving thousands of kilos of cocaine per month, making millions in profits. He was known as a highly skilled businessman, capable of turning every opportunity into a profit. His rise to power wasn't without struggle. He came from a poor background in Pockettown, and his early life was marked by hardship. His mother worked tirelessly to provide for the family, and his father was absent. Once his mother became ill, Hill began hustling on the streets, using his street smarts to climb the ladder of success. Hill's first major break came when a man who owed him money for a stolen car offered him cocaine instead of cash. This transaction became the spark that ignited Hill's drug empire. He soon turned his new skill for trafficking drugs into a lucrative business, laundering money through a bus company and sourcing his drugs from Mexican and Californian cartels. Over time, Hill became a supplier for numerous Chicago gangs, including the Black Disciples, Vice Lords, Black P-Stones, New Breeds, and Gangster Disciples. He was integral in the distribution of cocaine across Chicago, and his influence was felt nationwide. In fact, Hill's operations were so extensive that in 1996, the U.S. government charged him with supplying over 3 tons of cocaine to Chicago's largest gangs between 1987 and 1995. This was just one chapter in a violent saga that involved him putting out hits on his rivals, being shot himself, and eventually fleeing to Africa. There, he tried to reinvent himself, selling coffee and working on development projects that aimed to uplift impoverished communities. Despite his criminal activities, Hill's legacy extended beyond drugs and violence. He had a deep interest in music, and his investments in the music industry helped shape the culture of Pockettown. Pockettown Records, created with money earned from the drug trade, played a significant role in the development of Chicago's local rap scene. This musical influence continued with the rise of artists like Lil Lay, King Rico, and much later, Denny G. The story of Pockettown is not just about drugs and violence. It also ties into the cultural fabric of Chicago's street life. Lil Lay and King Rico were 2 of the most infamous figures to rise to prominence in the early 2000s. As the brothers of Rio G from KTS, they were known for their ruthless approach to gaining control of Pockettown, even taking on older gang members to secure their dominance. Their reputation was built on violent actions, but it was also marked by their entrepreneurial spirit, especially in the realm of music. As the years went on, the younger generation in Pockettown, including figures like Denny G, continued to push the gang into new territory, including the drill music scene, which exploded across Chicago and beyond. This music became a symbol of their struggle, an outlet for their frustrations, and a way to generate both money and fame. While Lil Lay was one of the first to make a name for himself in this scene, Denny G would go on to cement his place as one of Pockettown's most famous and talented rappers. As Pockettown rose to prominence, it inevitably clashed with other gangs, including the Circon City Gangsters. This rivalry started with smaller incidents, but escalated in 2006 after a basketball game between the 2 gangs. What began as a friendly match turned violent, leading to a shootout and the eventual murder of a member from Circon City. This marked the true beginning of the war between Pockettown and Circon City, a war that would carry on for over a decade, with both sides losing members to violence and retaliation. In the years that followed, the war would intensify. The murder of Lil Paris, also known as Lil Pez, marked a significant turning point. Lil Paris, a well-loved member of Pockettown, was killed by members of Circon City, setting off a brutal wave of violence that would see both gangs embroiled in a cycle of revenge killings, shootings, and turf battles. The situation only worsened with the murder of Lady Shaw, another member of Pockettown, who was tragically caught in the crossfire. Her death was a key catalyst for the increasingly violent war between the 2 gangs. With each new loss, the violence escalated further, with members from both sides taking more extreme actions to protect their territory and their reputations. The war between Pockettown and Circon City, along with the involvement of rival factions like No Limit, would continue to shape the lives of everyone involved, marking a brutal chapter in Chicago's gang history. The legacy of Pockettown is not just about violence and drugs, though. It's a story of survival, ambition, and loyalty, one that reflects the harsh realities of life on Chicago's streets. The ongoing struggle between these gangs is not only about control and power, but also about identity, family, and the desperate desire to rise above the circumstances that each member faces. And as we dive deeper into the current situation, particularly the involvement of key members like Spook, Denny G, and KTS Vaughn, we'll uncover how these figures continue to shape the future of Pockettown amidst the chaos of gang warfare. This is just the beginning. In the next part of the story, we'll explore the modern-day conflicts, the rise of new leaders, and the ongoing war with Sh00ter City and No Limit, gangs whose history continues to intertwine with the fate of Pockettown. Lessons we can learn from the story of Lil Les, Lester Owens. Before beginning, it is important to remember that many parts of the Lil Les story are based on street stories, rumors, online discussions, documentaries, and allegations rather than court-proven facts. The tragedy is not only about one man, but about the violence, retaliation, and suffering that affected entire communities on Chicago's south and east sides. C creates more violence. The biggest lesson from Lil Les's story is that violence rarely ends a conflict, it usually expands it. According to the stories, conflicts existed between Pockettown, Sh00ter City, ABM, Jaro City, NLMB, and other groups for years. One incident would lead to retaliation, and retaliation would lead to another act of revenge. Examples often discussed include the death of Jarvis Smith, Jaro, the shooting that caused Lil Les to lose his eye, the killing of Damian Kendricks, the death of Lil Paris, Lil Pez, numerous shootings connected to rival neighborhoods. Each event created new anger, new enemies, and new reasons for revenge. Instead of solving problems, violence multiplied them. Entire generations became trapped in a cycle where every loss demanded another response. Lesson: revenge may fee, it often creates decades of pain. Second lesson: a reputation can become a prison. Lil Les became one of the most talked about names on the East Side. People described him as a feared figure, a respected leader, a legendary street figure, a controversial individual. Whether every story was true or not, his reputation grew larger than life. Eventually, many people viewed him through the lens of rumors rather than reality. When someone gains a powerful street reputation, they have ant to challenge them. Police focus on them. Stories become exaggerated. Every incident becomes attached to their name. Lesson: building a reputation through fear often attracts more danger than protection. Third lesson: small conflicts can become major tragedies. One of the most heartbreaking parts of the story involves a basketball game. According to court discussions and neighborhood accounts, Pockettown and Sh00ter City members participated in a basketball game. A dispute occurred, tensions escalated, shootings followed. What started as a sporting event allegedly became part of a chain of violence that changed many lives forever. This shows how quickly unresolved tensions can explode. Lesson: minor disagreements when anger, pride, and weapons are involved. Fourth lesson: the environment shapes people. One of the most important questions raised in the story is, open quote, was Lil Les a product of his environment? Close quote. The neighborhoods described in the story experienced poverty, drug activity, long-standing gang rivalries, constant exposure to violence. Young people grew up surrounded by older conflicts they did not create. Many inherited rivalries that began before they were born. This does not remove personal responsibility. However, it helps explain why some young people enter dangerous lives, strongly influences behavior, which is why communities need opportunity, mentorship, and support. Fifth lesson: every gang war creates victims on all sides. People often focus on shooters, leaders, and rivals, but the true victims include mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, friends. The story mentions numerous deaths and injuries. Names frequently discussed include Jarvis Smith, Damian Kendricks, Lil Paris, Paris Bassett, Dante Thomas, various other individuals connected to the conflict. Each death affected entire families. Lesson: nobody truly wins a gang war. Communities lose far more than they gain. Sixth lesson: one moment can change your entire life. T to lose his eye became one of the defining moments of his life. Court testimony confirms that Lester Owens was shot in the eye during a shooting incident in 2006 and survived. One moment changed everything. His appearance changed. His nickname became more famous. His story became part of Chicago street history. This reminds us how quickly likely decision, argument, or act of violence can have permanent consequences. Seventh lesson, rumors often become larger than facts. The story repeatedly mentions rumors connecting Lil Les to various killings. Some allegations were later challenged. Some were considered false. Others remain debated. Examples include stories involving A-Dog, Terrence Weber, Julian, Lil Harvey, Mac, Draw. The internet often repeats stories without proof. Over time, rumors can become accepted as facts. Lesson: always separate verified facts from rumors and speculation. Eighth lesson: leadership can be used for good or bad. Many people viewed Lil Les as a leader within Pockettown. Leadership inspire people toward success, guide people toward education, help communities improve. Or a leader can become part of ongoing conflict. Throughout history, leadership has shaped entire neighborhoods for better or worse. Lesson: leadership carries enormous responsibility because many people follow the example that leaders set. Have ninth lesson: illegal guns fuel violence. A major section of the story discusses federal allegations involving firearm Darrow prosecutors. More than 90 firearms were allegedly moved into Chicago. Several Pockettown associates were charged. 3 U.S. Army soldiers were accused of helping acquire weapons. Some firearms were allegedly connected to violent crimes. The case illustrates how access to weapons can intensify conflicts. Without easy access to firearms, many disputes might not become deadly. Lesson: the spread of illegal weapons often makes already dangerous situations far worse. 10th lesson: the saddest lesson is that children often inherit conflicts they never started. The story repeatedly describes older rivalries passing to younger generations, new members joining long-standing feuds, teenagers becoming involved in violence. Many people mentioned in the story were extremely young when they entered these conflicts. Some never reached adulthood. Lesson: breaking cycles of violence is essential so future generations are not forced to continue old wars. Hash major names mentioned in the story. The narrative discusses numerous individuals, including Lester Owens, Lil Les, King Rico, Jarvis Smith, Jero, Damian Kendricks, D-May, Julian, Lil Paris, Paris Bassett, Dante Thomas, Nate Hill, Spook, Denny G, KTS Vaughn, Rio G, Jojo Capone, 600 Breezy, Brandon Miller, Jarius Brunson, DeMarcus Adams. Many claims involving these individuals remain allegations, rumors, or disputed accounts rather than proven facts. The story of Lil Les is ultimately not a story about fame, respect, or gang reputation. It is a story about consequences. It shows how decades of conflict can trap entire neighborhoods in cycles of retaliation. It shows how young people can become involved in battles they did not create. It shows Sh00ter a life, how one death can lead to another, and how communities suffer when violence becomes normalized. Whether every rumor about Lil Les is true or false is not the most important lesson. The most important lesson is that behind every nickname, every gang, every shooting, and every street story are real human beings, people with families, dreams, fears, and futures. The heartbreaking reality is that many of those futures were cut short. If there is one lesson that stands above all the others, it is this: violence may create legends in the streets, but it leaves behind grief in homes, families, and communities for generations.